All right, a couple things before we jump into this week's Reddit reply, which we're going to cover a lot of random stuff. Just so you know, down below, like on my video channel, there's usually a bar of like buying different things for to supporting the channel, like stickers, right? They look a little weird on camera. But yeah, so you can buy stickers to support or mugs or shirts or whatever. We have a bunch of fun stuff. Make sure you go check out that store. It's like I said, right down below, kind of the description of the video. Also, for those that have been around the channel for a while, we used to do something called Sunday morning coffee and games. This Sunday, it's coming back. Get excited. It's going to be a bit different than it was in the past. We're going to be doing it for Marvel Champions probably for a little while. I don't know if it's going to be weekly or every other week, but we're going to start doing it. And one of the things I've been asked of a lot is to slow down my gameplay, explain more of what I'm doing, explain the strategy of what I have, explain the deck I'm using, yada, yada, yada. So that's what I did. All right. It's going to be just a kind of slowed down version of the game. Chat's not going to be there to distract me, even though I love you, chat, but they're not going to be there to distract me or anything like that. So I think it'll be a really fun time. It'll be cool. It's going to be a premiered video on YouTube only, most likely around 10 a.m. or 10 or 11 a.m. Eastern time in the morning. The premiere link will go up very early on Sunday. This Sunday, it will go up. So check out that video. It'll be a fun time. You can chat with other people in the chat. So hopefully that's fun. But like I said, hopefully this gives that type of content that people have wanted. I'm hoping that this helps those people out. So I'm really excited for it. Like I said, I don't know if it's gonna be a weekly thing or bi-weekly or whatever, but I'll hopefully be able to do it a little bit more moving forward. So with all those announcements out of the way, let's jump into this week's Reddit reply. All right, the very first one is a couple of defensive rules questions. Looking at the Concussive Blast card, which is a terrible card, by the way, with a boost ability of deal 1 damage, and the ruling, what happens if I defend a villain attack with an ally with 1 HP and Concussive Blast is drawn as a boost ability? So boost abilities are always done first, right? The abilities are done first, then the villain attacks, just in case you don't know. Star first, then the rest of the attack. So they have a few questions because the boost ability would knock out the ally and then it'd be an undefended attack. So their question is, I'm playing solo and defending an ally who's defeated by the boost ability. Can I still play a card like Preemptive Strike? In this case of the second boost card, like we call the rule state, when an ally is defending against attack, no other friendly character can defend against that attack. But also defense labeled abilities can also be played during attack. So yeah, for solo you could still do it, right? And it's mainly because, and I should have put this up to begin with, because this is, when a boost card is turned face up. So you turn the boost card face up, so you can still play this card, right? You're still allowed to. It's turned face up, and the villain attacks, cancel all the boost icons on that card, then deal 1 damage to the villain for each boost icon cancels away. So even after the ally gets knocked out, can you still play this card? Yes, absolutely. And then you're also now considered the defender. It's weird that they say the rule state when an ally is defending against attack, no other friendly character. I thought it was no other player. But I guess technically you can't like exhaust the defend, I think is what they're talking about there. Not that you can't become the defender, right? If that makes sense. So, and this is the whole weirdness of the rules there. I have to double check these rules eventually, but anyway, you can still play Preemptive Strike. That's absolutely allowed. +1 attack protection upgrade. Does this card exist? A permanent would be nice, but even a discard after use. Leadership provides great cards to boost hero attack, but I'm struggling to find something that assists my +1 attack heroes when playing green cards. I don't think there is any. Aggression obviously has it for allies and for your hero. And leadership has it because leadership is good all around, but I'm pretty sure protection doesn't have anything like that. And I don't think it really should, because that's not really supposed to be the point of protection, because then you just get into like a congealed like one aspect to rule them all, which is kind of what leadership is to a point, which is probably why it doesn't get as much love anymore as it should. But yeah, there's nothing I know of that exists like this. All right, so I was thinking about this a little bit more and I put it up here. I guess Repurpose is actually a card that would work in this situation. Now it's not permanent or anything like that, but it does kind of work that way, so maybe that's what they're looking for, kind of. But I kind of forgot about that card, weirdly enough. All right, any tips for Miles? I'm relatively new to the game, just got it before Christmas. Awesome, welcome. And I have around half of the content released so far, which is more awesome to hear. I'd say I have a pretty good understanding of deck building and utilization characters well, playing to their strengths, but Miles Morales has me a bit confused. It seems to me that he really wants to utilize his special abilities when his heroes, the event's done, but I'm just at a loss for deck building for him. I'm not a fan of precons and always build my own decks rather than play around precons. Any tips or suggestions? You're 100% right, is that he wants to lean into that for sure. For me, Web Warrior cards under him work really well. The champion cards, because there's the one champion. Oh my gosh, what's it called? We were having a day today, chat. Champion's Mobile Bunker, right, is a great card for him because you just exhaust it and he is a champion. So it cycles through those cards faster. I think you can do it with Moon Girl too, right? Is a champion? Yeah, champion. So you're good there, right? So you want anything that cycles basically through his cards fast, just so that you can all see he is a champion. You just want anything that will cycle through his cards faster. To get to his cards, essentially. So I like resource generators with him. If you can find any to put in. Allies work really well to kind of like supplement him. And then like the Champion's Mobile Bunker, Moon Girl, stuff like that, I think really helps. Because again, I'm just trying to get through the cards. Same with, I use Nick Fury with him and whatnot. So yeah, Web Warrior stuff, that stuff. But this person is 100% right, is that his kit really wants to utilize his special abilities, and you just kind of have to card draw toward that. Question for Spiral Sword. For the Mojo expansion, Spiral has a card called Spiral Sword. It said that there are 3 tokens on them, and each of them get +1 attack for Spiral. In addition, to remove the tokens, 2 fist resources can only remove 1. May I know it is the only way to remove these tokens? Would any of the tokens be removed after Spiral activates against me? I mean, it sounds like you kind of answered your question there. All right, so attaches, uses 3 counters. Spiral gets +1 attack for each sword counter on this card. If Spiral is on her corner side, spend 2 fist resources to remove 1 sword counter. I mean, that's it. Like, there's nothing that says that, like, after she swings, she loses a counter, right? Like, it doesn't say that. Like, most of the player cards would say, like, after you do X thing, remove a count, or you remove counter to do X thing, right? But this doesn't say that. So yeah, you probably want to dump those double fist resources to get rid of that as fast as possible. Resource question: if I have something like Eye of Agamotto, that sounds like a thing for Doctor Strange, or something that generates resources, can I share these with my multiplayer partner, or is that prohibited? It would have to say that you could, right? So, like, for example, the XJet, I believe, says exhaust is generated a wild resource for a player whose identity has the X-Men trait. So you'd be able to do it for that. For their question, because I don't play a lot of Doctor Strange anymore because he's in the trash. Apparently that's not a card. Since I don't play a lot of Doctor Strange, I don't know, exhaust is to generate. Now, this would just be a hero resource, right? You're just generating for yourself. So unless it specifically says it's for another player, like I think Helicarrier. Oh god, I did not spell Helicarrier right. So Helicarrier is another option. I'm pretty sure that would work as well. All right, here it is. So this one states exhaust Helicarrier, choose a player, reduce the resource cost of the next card for that player of this phase by 1, right? So Helicarrier would work for somebody else. Doctor Strange Invocation Deck Fix, custom environment card. I remember seeing a custom environment card for Doctor Strange that attempted to fix the invocation deck with something like Price of Magic and whatever. Am I crazy or looking in the wrong place? I don't really know. This might exist somewhere. What I will say is one of the best things I've seen fix it is that every time you flip through the invocation deck, you get you have to draw an encounter card, right? Just like you would for your normal deck out. You would have to do that. That's probably the best fix for it, because other than that, like, you just, again, it's too overpowered to just be able to run through his invocation deck. Question about upgrades. How many upgrades can you have on the board? Some say as many as you want, and some say it might perhaps be limited, or only allies limited on the board. So allies are limited on the board, and anything with the restricted keyword, right? So if it has restricted, it just means you can only hold 2 of those things. You have two hands, you can hold 2 restricted items. Everything else is fair game unless it says it's not. And this is, I guess, one of the things that can get kind of confusing for people. And really quick, protection has a lot of this, so we can go through protection really fast to show it. But like, I think it's armor vest, right? So specifically state play under any player's control, max 1 per player. So again, you can have as many upgrades as you want, but you can only have like 1 of those upgrades, for instance. Then there's energy barrier, right? Which does not have that restriction, right? So you could put in a bunch of energy barriers. But there was the other one, I forgot what it was called off the top of my head. But flow like water, again, another, flow like water didn't come up. Play under player's control, max 1 per player, right? So it kind of depends on what the card says. The other thing that I will say too is that aggression has some weapon cards that are kind of the same issue, but they will say something in particular. Here we go. Here's Godslayer. I couldn't find it really fast. So like again, this card is a restricted card, so you can only have 2 restricted cards in play. So there are limitations, and this is why it's kind of like weird to just like blanket statement like, oh, you can only have so many, because there's so many small things it kind of falls under. So it is kind of a weirdly confusing thing, but anyway, there are restrictions on things unless there aren't. Complete deck question. Hey, y'all, I'm fairly new to the game, but familiar with the general idea. I plan on keeping the starter decks pre-built until I feel comfortable enough to build my own. That said, I remember reading in the base box that it doesn't come with enough cards to have all 5 decks built simultaneously, since it has 2 aggression decks and not enough cards for both. What's the best way to tackle this if I want to keep everything fully pre-built? I picked up a few character packs in the Guardians Most Wanted box, so I've got excess cards. Just curious if there's a good strategy beyond just leaving one blank and pulling the other aspect cards from the other deck. That's probably your best bet, realistically. I would say you build it as much as you can, whatever the hero is that you're not going to use as much, and then just pull the handful of cards that you need over. Obviously, you have hero decks later on that have those extra cards, you can use them. And while there is some like obviously reprinted cards, I don't think there's going to be enough for that. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But yeah, I would just, whatever hero you think you're going to use less of, just kind of leave that one behind a little bit and just pull some cards. All right, why the need for multiple similar keywords? Tough versus toughness. I just learned today I was playing toughness wrong and making it way harder than I needed to be. I thought toughness was a stronger version of tough. What I mean by that is I thought toughness would auto regenerate at the end of each round if the enemy was not removed from play. That's rough. Why couldn't the developers just use tough instead of toughness? Well, because they're technically 2 different things. So tough is like just the status card, right? And toughness is the keyword that puts on the status card. The reason being is because if you had keywords on things, like if tough itself states that like the hero, ally, whomever becomes tough, right? Which means when they would take any amount of damage, you just remove the tough status instead. If the keyword was also tough, does that mean you can put that card with the keyword on you to do that thing? Right? Like inherently we understand no, but if you're playing by the rules, well then kind of, right? Because they are 2 separate things that they're doing. Tough is the actual thing you're putting on your hero to stop taking all that damage, when toughness is telling you to put that thing onto your card. So they kind of need to be different, because again, like if I flipped a boost card and it said tough on it, do I take that boost card and put it on my hero? Now we all might laugh at that and go, that's ridiculous. No one would ever do that. But we know some rules lawyers people, I may be one of them, and I would go, well, technically according to the rules. So then you have to write the rules that are like, well, if it's a tough on this situation, then you do it this way. If it's a tough on this situation, you do it this way. And we've already learned with the word you that when it's used multiple different ways, that it gets really convoluted and exhausting and tiring. So that's why it's different. They actually mean 2 different things, even though they end at the same exact point, but their purposes and their meanings are different. Tiring. Who else is tired of these mutant waves and how self-contained they are? I haven't been able to really update any of my decks before the mutants because there's nothing really for them in these waves. I also hate player side schemes, which is unfortunate. I don't love player side schemes, but I like it. I'm happy they added it for sure. I honestly lost the interest ever since Angel came out, and I'm buying the product, but I haven't built or tweaked the deck since the day Angel came out. I play this game for the deck building, so this is a huge blow for me, and I cannot wait for the next wave to be done. I possibly won't build a single one of these heroes until I'm no longer exhausted mutant building. So wondering if anyone else feels the same exact way. This person also got downvoted. Like a lot of people like hated on them, which I don't think is the right response. Here's the thing. I actually ran a separate poll on my YouTube channel, which if you're not a part of the community tab, you should take a glance at. I very rarely do polls now, but they're there. And a lot of people, the majority of people, here we go. The majority of people said, for Marvel Champions, would you want a 4th wave? And 25% said yes right away, 11% no. 64 said yes, but years down the road, right? I think this is a lot of people. Look, I mean, obviously, statistically, it's a lot of people. It's almost 700 people. But I think this is a good sample size of generally Marvel Champions players. I do think, yeah, I want more X-Men stuff, but like, there's exhaustion from it. There is. I mean, the 3 years of X-Men stuff straight is a lot. And I know a lot of people talk about how like, oh, well, the Avengers had 3 years stuff. But did they? Did they really? Because the thing is, you had the core set, then you had Rise of Red Skull, and then they went into Guardians Most Wanted. So like, it kind of, not really, you know what I mean? So I don't think it's the same. I think there's a lot of X-Men stuff. Now, I get why they did the way the things they did with X-Men because there's a contract and they only have like this one shot to do it, and they're only doing 3. But I will be happy when it's done. I'm ready to move on personally, and I get there's a lot of people that just do not enjoy the X-Men stuff, and I get the counterpoint too, right? There's a lot of people who love X-Men. They've been waiting for this for a really long time, and this is all they've ever wanted. So like their time is here, and I get that side of things too. That's why I'm not like upset with it. But yeah, this person was going to get hammered on, which I feel bad for, because I think this is a very fine statement to make, that it is tiring to have the same thing for, not the same exact thing, but the same theme for 3 cycles now. And you're ready to move on. I think a lot of people are ready to move on. And that's not to say that we don't ever want X-Men stuff again in the future. It's just to say we're done with it for now. Hey, Mobile Champs player, Friday's payday. Let's go. And I want to buy my first expansion campaign. Cast your votes and recommendations of which I should buy first. I'm leaning towards Sinister Motives or Mutant Genesis. I'm curious to see where you all leave me. I may actually with the highest pick you suggest. Let me know how you're trying to feel. But I don't know if they actually put the voting thing up there. But with their first expansion campaign, I really do recommend Rise of Red Skull first. Obviously, if something interests you a lot like the X-Men or like Spider-Man, go with that. But if the theme does not matter to you, I would recommend just going with Rise of Red Skull. I think 1 is a really good box overall, but I think the campaign's fine. I think it's interesting. It's a good way to introduce you to the campaign. It just makes sense going in order too. I don't know. I'm a big fan of that. So yeah, go with whatever one really interests you theme-wise, but if they're all kind of like the same to you, go with Rise of Red Skull, or go with whatever's heavily on sale, because you might as well save money when you can. All right, recommended aspects and builds for Scarlet Witch. I love Scarlet Witch. Let's go. But as a general character in her kit in the game, I can't decide how to build her. Anyone have strong suggestions for aspect or specific deck lists? I borrowed some of the ones on the Marvel CDB, but nothing caught my eye. Leaning towards aggression or good justice, but could be talked into anything. So a lot of people will say Turbo Witch is the strongest witch. I disagree. I think actually Aggression Witch is the strongest witch. And we've talked about this before. And it's really because card draw is nice and all with her, but Hexbolt is so strong that I don't need to be in Justice to remove any threat, right? Like it's not it's just not a thing I have to worry about. Again, we've talked about this in the past where this is not a thwart card and you're not doing a thwart action. You're just removing 2 threat from a scheme. Especially as a solo player, to get 2 or 4 or 6 threat removal is not hard to do with Hexbolt, right? Especially when you have Witch's Crest out there. It's very easy to do. I'd rather have aggression so that when I'm ready to like go and just like destroy the villain, I can do that. So for me, I'm always on team aggression when it comes to Scarlet Witch. Again, justice isn't bad by any means. Leadership is kind of interesting too, but still, I think the best aspect for her is aggression. All right, hopefully you enjoyed this week's Reddit reply. I'm excited actually for new stuff to come out because the questions are starting to slow down. We always hit this time period where like things go a little bit slower, and it's totally cool. It's fine because people are just, I think, excited for the next campaign and stuff to come out. So I get it. But anyway, if you enjoy this content, do me a huge favor, make sure to hit the like button, hit subscribe, all that fun stuff. It really helps me out a ton. It helps the channel out a ton. I would normally put up last week's Reddit reply, but I'll be honest, I completely forgot what I talked about last week. I think it was about Scarlet Witch that I think about. But anyway, future Jason is just going to put something up here. Click on it. Maybe it's just the thing that's what the algorithm thinks it's best for you or whatever. But anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I will see you all next time.